One day, two non-athletes woke up and said, "Hey, let's do a sports podcast." These courageous warriors faced great obstacles such as mediocre microphones, Skip Bayless, and Matt Hendrickson. This is The Unathletic. Welcome to this edition of The Unathletic, everyone. My name is Ben, and I am your host, and alongside me, as always, is Nate Wiggins. What's going on, Nate? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I am absolutely great. Great to be doing this again. I love doing this, Ben.
Yeah, you're loving life right now.
I am loving life. Yes, life is great.
March Madness is in full swing, and I think this is when Nate is honestly at his happiest.
Yes,
like nothing can really upset him during this time because you're just getting buzzer beater after buzzer beater. In your life.
It's tremendous. I love it.
Definitely. And so we're going to be talking about March Madness today, amongst other things. But before we jump into that, I think it's good to reaffirm what our show is about, as always. So here on The Unathletic, we want to talk about these sports and stories that we want to talk about. And so this sometimes deviates from what mainstream sports media is covering, but not today, once again, because March Madness is a big deal, and literally everyone, along with playing Fortnite, is being obsessed with March Madness right now. So, I
am shocked it took us this long to get a Fortnite reference in the show.
I know.
I am very surprised. Do you play Fortnite, Ben?
I do not play Fortnite, but my younger brother does. He's 12. And I think it's safe to say that he plays a good 6 to 7 hours of Fortnite every single day. And I think that's actually low compared to a lot of other people across this nation who are...
I can notice it. And all three of my roommates play Fortnite, so it is... And, I remember I was in here on a Friday once, and all three of them were playing it at the same time, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But back to sports.
Whatever makes you happy, And, for you, it's always... college basketball game.
Yep.
It's just, pick your poison, I should say, or pick, whatever you love. As I was saying, we like to talk about the sports and stories that we want to talk about. So today we're actually going to be previewing the baseball season, amongst other things. So, sometimes we like to deviate away from what's mainly popular. And so I think that's it. Let's just get right into this. So March Madness, It's been crazy so far, Nate, and we were talking on the way up to not the studio, but your dorm room, because we don't have a studio anymore, that this has arguably been the most maddening March Madness of all time.
Yeah, this is as crazy as I've ever seen it. I mean, the fact that there are no top 4 seeds remaining in the South region, that is the first time ever that a region has had all 4 of its top seeds eliminated before the Sweet 16. For the first time since 2004, 2 number 1 seeds failed to make the Sweet 16. And one of those 1 seeds was Virginia. And Virginia was on the losing end of a historic upset on Friday night as they lost to UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, by a score of 74-54.
I had never heard of them before that game, that is for sure.
Virginia became the first ever number 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed. And this is just absolutely unprecedented.
Yeah, it was totally unprecedented, and they were number 1 in the nation going into the tournament.
Yeah, they were the number 1 overall seed. The committee said they were the best team in the tournament. They lost 2 games all year. 2 games.
Yep.
And they ended up losing to UMBC in the first round.
Exactly. UMBC, to bring back Fortnite one more time. I think that was in a press conference. They said Fortnite is the reason that they won that game.
They said it was as good as winning in Fortnite. That's how it felt. Yeah. I'm
like, what have we become? But Nate, this is just such a crazy result. Arguably it's unequivocally one of the biggest upsets ever in sports. You were comparing it to Miracle on Ice.
Yeah, this is the college basketball version of the Miracle on Ice. But just taking a look at how does this even happen? I was watching the game. UMBC absolutely shot the lights out of the ball. Virginia hadn't given up 70 points all year. They were one of the best defensive teams in college basketball. They didn't give up 70 points to Duke. They didn't give up 70 points to North Carolina, but they gave up 70 points to UMBC. Virginia was very lackadaisical on defense, and UMBC was getting all kinds of open shots. It seemed to me like Virginia, I don't even know what they were doing defensively. I don't know what Tony Bennett had them doing, but UMBC was just getting open shot after open shot, and they were knocking them down. And, normally in these 1/16 matchups, what happens is that there's a 1 seed who comes in maybe a little overconfident. A 16 seed starts out playing really well, and maybe they're up early in the first half, or maybe it's tied at halftime. But eventually the 1 seed's talent takes over, and they ended up beating them by 20. But UMBC was not intimidated by the Cavaliers. And as the game went on, it was tied 21-21 at halftime. And as the game went on, I was kind of just waiting for Virginia to kick it up a notch and say, okay, eventually they're going to run away with this game. But the Retrievers, they were not intimidated. And they got stronger and stronger as the game went on. Virginia's, you could tell they was just wearing Virginia down. And eventually, this game wasn't even close. It was a 20-point win by a 16 seed against the number 1 seed. This is just absolutely insane. All credit in the world to the Retrievers.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's also important to note that they did lose in their next round.
They did lose to Kansas State. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit.
But I think not to shy away from what what they done, even though or what they did, even though they lost. I think Nate, let's try to put this win into context. Like, where does this win rank? We already mentioned the Miracle on Ice. Like, where do you think this falls in terms of not only greatest basketball upsets or college basketball upsets of all time, but just like greatest upsets in sports history? Where do you think this ranks?
Well, starting in the college basketball realm, we've seen lower seeds go on runs. In 2014, Florida Gulf Coast University actually became the first 15 seed to make it to the Sweet 16, beating 2 seed Georgetown in the first round and then beating 7 seed San Diego State in the second round. In 2006 and 2011, Georgetown and VCU were actually the first ever 11 seeds to make it to the Final Four, and they still stand as the lowest ever seeds to make it to the Final Four. And then last year, on the women's side of the game, Mississippi State ending UConn's 105-game win streak was just absolutely unprecedented, and they won on a buzzer beater, and that was one of the best college basketball games I've ever seen. But I think that this one, this is definitely the biggest upset in the history of college sports, and I think we've established it's one of the biggest upsets in all of sports.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I personally think of this kind of situation, you can't have upsets like this in major sports. So like in Major League Baseball, even though let's say the Padres sweep the Yankees, for instance. They're both Major League Baseball teams, and the game of baseball is structured to a way where like upsets like this could happen all the time. It's anything can happen in baseball, as the saying goes. But I think something comparable that we've seen potentially is it could be something like Wigan Athletic in the English Premier League beating Manchester City in the FA Cup. Wigan Athletic is a League One side, so that's the equivalent of in baseball a double-A team beating a Major League Baseball team, which I think would be pretty unprecedented in my opinion. And so Wigan beating Manchester City this past year in the FA Cup, especially when Manchester City, I think at that point, was undefeated on the season.
I think that they had that one loss to Liverpool.
One loss to Liverpool, but that was the only loss that they had, and they lost 1-0 to Wigan, and so that was really, really unprecedented. We could see events like this happen also in soccer in the World Cup.
I remember Costa Rica making it to the quarterfinals back in 2014. That was very unprecedented. And I believe they got out of a group with England and Italy. I might not be 100% certain, but I know they got out of a tough group. And that was a really unprecedented run by a CONCACAF team to make it to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. We talk about Leicester City going on and winning the Premier League, but that was over a whole season.
Yeah, over a whole season, that may be the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest sports stories of all time. But I think like this, if you look at this upset, it's comparable to when Appalachian State beat Michigan back in 2007. That was the first ever win by an FCS team against a ranked FBS team. And I'm just going to let you know, Virginia fans, as someone who's been on that side of a historic upset, it's going to take you a long time to get over this one because I'm still not over Michigan losing to Appalachian State. So Virginia fans, it's going to take you a long time. This is something that's going to stink. Virginia's always going to be remembered as that 1-1 seed that lost to a 16 seed. And that's what these players are going to be remembered for. And Tony Bennett is a tremendous head coach. And I don't know if you heard his post-game interview, but he was extremely classy afterwards. And he's a very good head coach. And it sucks that this is going to be on his legacy. But that's what they're going to be known as, the first ever number 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed. And if this never happens again, they're going to be known as that 1-1 seed who couldn't get the job done. And now 16 seeds are 1 and 135 against 1 seeds.
Gosh.
And that one win was by the University of Maryland, Baltimore County Retrievers.
Yeah, truly incredible. And I think with this win, it's easy to overlook some of the other upsets that have happened in the tournament because it's not only this amazing upset that UMBC pulled off that's been capturing everyone's attention. 13 seeded Buffalo shocked your pick to win it all.
Yep.
University of Arizona. You want to tell us the listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo, much like UMBC, Buffalo absolutely shot the lights out of the ball. I mean, they were knocking down threes like there was no tomorrow. And there was really no desire from Arizona. I was expecting that, once they were down, once the game was tied, that their talent was going to take over, much like with Virginia. But I saw no desire from Arizona. As soon as they got punched in the mouth, they folded. And I think, I don't want to say that it had to do with the FBI investigations, the off-court stuff, but just Arizona, they just did not play the way that they have played all season. I was very upset because they were my pick for the national champion, and my bracket was busted after the first day. Another huge upset, Loyola Chicago beating number 6 seed Miami. Loyola Chicago is an 11 seed. Miami, like I said, was a 6 seed, beating them on a last-second shot. And this game was everything that I love about March Madness. It was an upset. It had, crazy plays down the stretch. Miami turning the ball over at the very end of the game. Loyola Chicago hitting a last second shot, hitting a shot with 0.5 of a second remaining. This games like that are why I love March Madness. I was watching that and I just started screaming because I picked Loyola Chicago. I actually switched that pick. I had Miami when the bracket came out. The night before, I switched my pick to Loyola Chicago, and thank God that I did. Another big game on also that Thursday this wasn't an upset, but Houston defeating San Diego State by a score of 67-65, and Rob Gray dropping 39 points, tying a Houston tournament record. And it was their first tournament win since 1984 when the Phi Slamma Jamma team with Clyde the Glide Drexler, Hakeem Olajuwon. So this was a big deal for Houston. I did pick San Diego State. It sucked that San Diego State lost. I called my dad after the game. He was very upset because SDSU missed a ton of free throws. But when a guy drops 39 on you, it's really hard. It's really hard to stop that.
Yeah, and your dad. For those of you who are obviously unfamiliar, he is a San Diego State alum.
Yes,
so
he is. Yes, he is.
That is definitely why.
And he'll appreciate the shout out on the show.
Definitely
loyal listener, my dad.
One of our only loyal listeners, to be honest. But, Nate, there was also some round of 32 games that you wanted to highlight because the ones we just went through were the opening round games, and then stuff's happened since then. Notably, Jordan Poole, buzzer beater, not Jordan Peele. Jordan Poole.
Oh, man. That was absolutely incredible. Jordan Poole, freshman guard from Michigan, hitting a buzzer beater 3 to win the game against Houston in the second round. And actually, I had just come back from the USD game, and USD had won their CIT game on a game-winning shot by Tyler Williams with 1 second left. And so I was walking back, watching it on my phone, as Houston was up 63-61, going to shoot 2 free throws that would have essentially put the game away. And the dude for Houston missed both free throws. Michigan got the rebound, called timeout, and I have to say, what composure by Muhammad Ali Abdur-Rahman, best name in college basketball in my opinion, the point guard for Michigan. When he got the ball, instead of just looking to take a bad shot, he had the presence of mind to give the ball up to Jordan Poole, and Jordan Poole knocking down a crazy buzzer beater. I screamed. I was just going absolutely insane. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned from that game, make your free throws, because if Houston knocks down both those free throws before that shot, it's all moot. The game is over. A couple of just really incredible games. Loyola Chicago's run continues. They defeated 3 seed Tennessee in the second round on, again, another last-second shot that bounced around, hit pretty much every part of the rim, and then went in. So Loyola Chicago, I mean, they've become kind of the big story of the tournament so far. Another huge upset was the Syracuse Orangemen, an 11 seed, defeating Michigan State, a 3 seed. I had Michigan State in my Final Four, but I'm going to be totally honest. I was so happy to see them lose because I absolutely despise them, and their fans are so annoying. And all I hear about is, oh, Tom Izzo's so good in March. Well, guess what? Tom Izzo is 4-7 in his last 11 games in March, Michigan State fans.
Oh, my God.
That's right.
Dang, we apologize to if you're a Michigan State fan listening, or a Michigan State fan who follows Nate Wiggins on Twitter, because I'm assuming you were lighting up Twitter.
They're very annoying. They're very annoying. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. One of my favorite professors is actually a Michigan State fan, so he's cool. Anyway, Texas A&M defeating North Carolina.
They smoked them.
They absolutely destroyed them. North Carolina won the national championship last year, but this team, I mean, again, it's defensively they just were not getting to the ball. Texas A&M was knocking down open shot after open shot. And Texas A&M is a very good team, and they're going to give Michigan a lot of trouble in the Sweet 16. Nevada came back from 22 points down to defeat 2 seed Cincinnati. That was just an incredible game. Nevada's coach is actually USD alum, Eric Musselman, yeah. And
we have a lot of coaches out there.
Yeah, and I like to see Nevada holding it down for the mid-major schools. I'm excited to see them face off against Loyola Chicago actually in the Sweet 16. So yeah, one of those teams is going to be going to the Elite Eight. And then finally, another huge upset was Florida State defeating Xavier. And with that upset, like I talked about earlier, now at least 2 1 seeds have been knocked out before the Sweet 16, and that is absolutely crazy.
Definitely, Nate. So you mentioned the Sweet 16 and just matchups you're looking forward to. Nevada versus Loyola Chicago, I think you're definitely going to be watching.
Certainly.
Due to the Cinderella stories both of them have had in this tournament. But I want to hear about some other matchups that you're looking forward to in the Sweet 16. And also, who do you predict to win those matchups?
Well, obviously, I'm looking forward to Michigan, Texas A&M. As a Michigan fan, I'm really starting to believe in this team. I think that this team can go all the way. But Texas A&M is going to be a challenge. I mean, they absolutely dominated North Carolina. But I'm going to go with Michigan. I think that Mo Wagner's presence inside is going to be a matchup problem for the Aggies. Another game I'm really looking forward to is Florida State and Gonzaga. I'm going to go with Gonzaga. I did have Gonzaga in my Elite Eight. And, Gonzaga, they're playing as well as anyone in the country right now. And, last year they... last year they lost in the national championship, and I think that team really has a desire to want to get back to the national championship. On Friday, I'm really looking forward to Syracuse versus Duke. You got Syracuse with that 2-3 zone. That 2-3 zone is a problem. It's a problem for Michigan State, and it could be a problem for Duke. But I'm going to take Duke in that game. Duke, they're just too talented. Syracuse, it's been a good story. But, Jim Boeheim, this is a matchup Jim Boeheim versus Coach K, 2 legendary coaches. And we'll see what happens, but I'm going to take Duke. And then finally, I'm looking forward to Texas Tech versus Purdue. Purdue, their star center, Isaac Hayes, is going to be out. He broke his wrist. So I'm going to go with Texas Tech in this game. But this game could go either way, but I'm going to go with Texas Tech because of the injury to Purdue's star center.
Yeah, a lot of round of 16 matchups to look forward to. And Nate, I have one final question for you. Due to how everyone's brackets have been completely and utterly destroyed, who do you have now winning it all?
Who do I have? Oh my gosh! You know what? My heart really wants to go with Michigan. I really want to go with Michigan.
Unbiased.
But I'm gonna go with Duke.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Duke. Yeah. They're playing some of the best basketball in the country right now. And they absolutely smoked Rhode Island in the round of 32. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Duke. Although I really want to go with Michigan, but I'm gonna go with Duke.
Yeah, definitely. And this leads us, I think, to our inaugural segment or mini segment that we are going to call... What are we going to call it, Nate?
This is the My Man segment.
My Man!
Yeah. So, for a little context, I say My Man a lot because it's like, whenever I see one of my homeboys, like, whenever I see Ben, I'm just like, hey, what's up, my man? Or, whenever I see, a good performance from somebody, I'm like, oh, man, that's my man right there. Like, Mo Salah, his 4 goals this week. Oh, that's my man, Mo Salah. But, my man for this week is Jarius Lyles from UMBC, who absolutely just tore it up against Virginia. Scored 28 points against one of the best defenses in college basketball. And Jarius Lyles is actually the biggest reason why UMBC was even in the tournament, because against Vermont in the championship game of the American East Conference tournament, he hit a buzzer-beater shot on the road to beat Vermont, who had won the regular season conference title. So UMBC was able to stun Vermont, get into the NCAA tournament, and then obviously pull off the biggest upset in NCAA tournament history. And, just for a little irony, Jarius Lyles' parents were actually UVA alums. And wow. I thought that was just, hey, life just comes full circle, man.
Definitely. But Jarius Lyles, my man, getting it done. There you go. Well, I think that wraps up this segment for March Madness. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where the tournament goes from here. So when we come back, we're going to transition to talking about soccer. Man United, they're spiraling right now. They advanced in the FA Cup, but
I think things are not going well in Manchester.
Let's just say that their coach has lost his mind. We're going to tell you all about it and more when we come back. Stay tuned, you guys.
Like what you're hearing? Well, I've got news for you. You no longer have to wait a whole week to hear from your favorite sports personalities. Hi, I'm Nate Wiggins, and Ben Friedel and I have got you covered. Give our show, The Unathletic, a sports podcast, a listen. We release new episodes every Monday and are committed to bringing you the best content. That's right, the very best content.